Hello, beautiful people.
Hello there. Welcome back.
Welcome back, one and all. And so, today I wanted to share with you guys some revelations of sort. Not even revelations. You know how there's things that you know and you might have known for, well, if you're an old fart like me, you might have known for 40 years, but they don't always come to the forefront of your mind in a particular order, in a particular manifested way. And by the way, make sure you got the little bell clicked on all three channels. Hopefully at some point in time, things will be allowed to go normal. But of course, that will probably be without the technology. The future is now with doctors, the military, key industries leaning on AI. We seem to be hurtling towards some version of the singularity. Now, the singularity they're talking about is that which was given to us by Ray Kurzweil and envisioned by him, who is he's a top brain, per se, at Google. Oh, yeah, Google. Google's leading the way with AI in so many ways, but, we have DARPA. We have so much more going on. We have the technology that's coming out from the fine dining ware country. It's all part of a slow, ever increasing actually in speed, disclosure. And this is a big disclosure. It really is a major disclosure, as it sounds like military helicopters go overhead.
I know. So we got there's that. But when we're dealing with disclosures, it's like they're telling you what is going to happen. It's not like you get a choice. It's not like you get an option. There are no other things about it unless you really take control of your own future. So, yeah, the disclosure is like, yeah, we've known about this and we've decided it's safe to tell you now because, we have you jailed in so many ways so you couldn't get out anyway. So to them, it's just a nice courtesy that they tell us.
I love this title there, that subheading. Should we be searching for post-biological aliens? You don't gotta look far. That's the bottom line. They've been here the whole time. They've been all around us the whole time. And yet humanity has been conditioned to believe that, we're all alone on this, whatever you want to call it. It's up to you for your description. But the reality is, they've been here. It's part of the dark age. The merger of AI with humanity, happened eons ago. It happened eons ago. And now I'm not necessarily talking about Homo sapiens sapiens, because Homo sapiens sapiens is just one latest version of humanity. There have been many other versions. We can look to the human family tree that, we see all these quote unquote dead ends. Well, again, planned obsolescence. They are always bringing out new versions, but the new versions that they bring out, their versions are going to break down quicker. Their versions are not going to be as smart. Their versions are going to have less inbred, innate abilities. And this is what they're doing right now. They've told us, the WF has said, hey, we're in the last generation or two of Homo sapiens. Yeah. And at the same time, this is the thing we want to get across, because somebody had said, well, it looks like there's no help then. There's no help. They're coming. There's no hope. Well, the reality is help is there all the time right now. And this is why they are doing when I just looked out looking for the military helicopters that went overhead, what do I see? I see straight lines in the sky. These lines are not natural. What are the lines there for? The number one thing, there's many layers to this. Yes, there's biological components up in the sky, virological components up in the sky. There's nanu floating down on our heads that they know is going to waft into our lungs and make it into the bloodstream. But at the same time, if your vibe is high, it won't be able to handle that, and it'll be purged out. So it's good to keep that vibe high. It's more than good. It's imperative to keep our vibes high. And yet, those lines are also there to block the sun, because the sun is a relay for both the creator of this universe and the source of all things. And the sun is bringing us new information all the time, because light is information. And that information is revealing a knowing, a gnosis, if we want to use that term. Everything that you need to know has been right in front of your face the entire time. I mean, the entire time. And it's been hitting us from all different angles. So I am really a child of the 70s and 80s, but more the 80s than, well, I guess it depends on, I was a teenager in the 80s. Let's say that way. I was a teenager in the 80s. And yeah, I used to like to bang my head a little bit here and there as the dogs are starting to do their little happy dance in the background, so please forgive them. This is Ronnie James Dio, which some of you might be familiar with. And, I was looking at some of these old 80s videos, and what I was hit with more than anything was the subliminal messages. I mean, and then again, who are these messages coming from? Are they coming from our subconsciousness? Now, we know that Hollywood is controlled by, the dark side per se. So are they trying to get us to accept the Borg? You will merge? Or is there an element of getting us to co-create this dark reality? This video it's hilarious and cheesy is what it is. But at the same time, it's also, and we definitely would get copyright strikes and stuff, so we won't roll it as much as I'd love to. But then I know the music would annoy some, so we won't roll it anyway too. But it's all about the singularity. And this is 1980, what did I say? 83. This one's 83. And you see the kid, he's rolling on the way home on the bike, and everything's just fine. Looks like he's going to do like a delivery or something. Goes in the elevator. And it's when he gets in the elevator that it starts to drop rapidly. And then this little, I don't know, is that a plant? Some sort of thing grabs him, pulls him into this mist as the elevator had gone like straight down. And what does he see? He sees a very post-apocalyptic world in which everybody is walking around. They seem to be half human, half machines. They seem to have no will of their own. They're just they're zombified. They're completely zombified. So they grab him, pull him out, and he's just witnessing the zombies. He's just watching and witnessing the zombies just walking around, apparently controlled by something, as you see this. Now, my immediate thoughts were, oh, wow, that Star Trek movie must have been released at this time, because this is so much like taking a chapter out of Star Wars, with the Borg collective, as we see. And there's Ronnie James Dio, and he's got his Egyptian garb on. As you see, these kids are playing video games, and they're playing the old like Centipede and Mario and Pac-Man, Donkey Kong type things. And they're all just hooked up to their video games. Isn't it laughable to think about the quality of the games? You lose, by the way, if you play the game. The quality of the games, but the whole thing is they were starting to hook us in way back then. As you see, the little pyramid, but it's a pyramid that's more like the Sumerians in the sense that it's got a flat top, more like a ziggurat, but an elongated ziggurat. As you see all these human-ish beings, and again, most of them are, as you can see, this guy, they're giving allusions to the fact that our brains are being controlled. We're becoming mindless zombies. We're being hooked up to machinery. We have your arbitrary metal solo going on in the middle, and you see everybody's hooked up to all sorts of electronics. It's just hilarious. It is hilarious, but it's something that gets into your subconscious. It's subconscious. The lyrics are fascinating too. I mean, look at this. mindless zombies. The Singularity, hooked up, chained, no free will. Again, this is 1983. It's 1983, pulling the cord out. It's pretty wild. So these are the lyrics. We're a ship without a storm, the cold without the warm, light inside the darkness that it needs. Yeah. We're a laugh without a tear, the hope without the fear. We are coming home. We're off to the witch. We may never, never, never come home, but the magic that we feel is worth a lifetime. We're all born upon the cross. We're the throw before the toss. You can release yourself, but the only way is down. We don't come alone. We are fire, we are stone. We're the hand that writes and quickly moves away. We'll know for the first time if we're evil or divine. We're the last in line. Yeah, we're the last in line. Oh. 2 eyes from the east. It's the angel or the beast. And the answer lies between the good and bad. We search for the truth. We could die upon the tooth, but the thrill of the chase is worth the pain. And then it goes back to the chorus. We'll know for the first time if we're evil or divine. We're the last in line. Yeah, we're the last in line. Oh. Then you have your solo. Yeah, we're off to the witch. We may never, never, never come home. But the magic that we'll feel is worth a lifetime. We're born upon the cross. We're the throw before the toss. You can release yourself, but the only way to go is down. We'll know for the first time if we're evil or divine. We're the last in line. Oh, we're the last in line. See all we shine. We're the last in, 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 we're the first in line. Oh, we're a ship without a storm, we're the cold inside the warm, we're a laugh without a tear, we're the far without the near, we're the last in line. And it goes on, see how we shine. So, what's your take, Miss Cynthia?
Well, this one's a good one, but I'm hoping that you'll go over the other song that we were talking about this morning, because this has a lot of little nuggets in it, talking about if we're evil or divine, talking about the angel or the beast. We're the last in line, which really tells me we're kind of the last to know. It's like, okay, so it goes back to disclosure. We are not going to be given a choice if we just follow along, we're like little birds kind of pecking our way, just not really paying attention to anything, just pecking around where the food is, and then boom, you're going to have a cage put on you. And it's going to be like an electric cage, and they're just going to slam it down, and you're probably going to be so dependent on certain types of technology. It's like, what's your choice? I mean, yes, it does get to that point. We all need to do our best to be independent as much as possible. And I know that there's people out there who are dependent on the medical necessities that we have right now, but that doesn't mean you always have to be. I think it's worth it to just keep looking for natural alternatives. Never give up. And I know some people who are so extremely brave and are going through the process of moving themselves on to natural alternatives. And in some cases, you guys, that can take years. That can take a long time. But there's no better time to start than right now. Don't look at things and think, oh, it's too late. No. Don't have that attitude at all. Our angels and guides have a way of helping us do things as long as we try and ask. That's the most important thing. So there is no such thing as no hope. There is no such thing as that. If you have the will and the desire, that's your chance. That is your hope. But we have to take control.
Yeah, it's interesting, so thinking about all these timings, it got me thinking about the Borg. Again, the Borg are an alien group that appear as reoccurring antagonists in Star Trek fictional universe. Cybernetic organisms, cyborgs, linked in a hive mind called the Collective. The Borg co-opt the technology and knowledge of other alien species to the Collective through the process of assimilation, forcibly transforming individual beings into drones by injecting nanoprobes into their bodies and surgically augmenting them with cybernetic components. The Borg's ultimate goal is achieving perfection. Yeah, I mean, they came out, oh, humans can be immortal. I mean, there was that news break, and no, no. There's also, the line of thinking that this soul could become trapped, obviously. And I think this is very clearly what they're really, really going after, is trying to control the source spark that lies in every single individual. That's the bottom line. So aside from being reoccurring antagonists, there they go again, in the Next Generation television series, they're depicted as the main threat in the film Star Trek First Contact. In addition, they played major roles in Voyager and Picard series. They become a symbol in popular culture for any juggernaut against which resistance is futile. Interesting, is it not? So Q-Who, this symbol was created, that's 1989. When we look to, the Next Generation, that was from 87 to 94. When we look to that one movie that I was thinking about, that was 96. Now, this song came out in 83. So this is before that, but the first mention of Borg was actually in Star Wars, as far as Wikipedia is saying, in 1977. So, the concept taken from that. But, in reality, we see allusions to that in many other things. Now, this is the song Electric Eye from Judas Priest, and this one's Painkiller. This is the album Screaming for Vengeance, and what you see is a metallic version kind of an eagle or some sort of bird of prey, all loaded up with missiles and metal claws and metal wings and stuff. Judas Priest, this album is 82. Painkiller came quite a bit later, I think more like 89. But when you look at it, again, what's it talking about? Up here in space, I'm looking down on you. This is, again, think back. This is 80. This one's 82. 82. I was still in high school. Up here in space, I'm looking down on you. My lasers trace everything you do. You think you've private lives. Think nothing of the kind. There is no true escape. I'm watching all the time. I'm made of metal. My circuits gleam. I am perpetual. I keep the country clean. I'm elected. Electric spy. I'm protected. Electric eye. Always in focus, can't feel my stare. I zoom into you, but you don't know I'm there. I take a pride in probing all your secret moves. My tearless retina can take pictures that can prove every single thing that we're doing is being watched now. I'm made of metal, my circuits gleam, I am perpetual, I keep the country clean, I am elected, electric spy, I'm protected, electric eye. Electric eye in the sky, feel my stare, always there. There's nothing you can do about it, develop and expose. I feed upon your every thought, and so my power grows. Ooh, that's a key line right there. I feed upon your every thought, and so my power grows. I'm made of metal, my circuits gleam, I am perpetual, I keep the country clean. I'm elected, electric spy, I'm protected, electric eye. Yeah, that kind of says it all, doesn't it? I mean, and then we look to Painkiller. Painkiller is one of the unique songs out there that has 3 distinct solos in it, for those of you that are of that persuasion, as far as the old metalheads out there. Faster than a bullet, terrifying scream, enraged and full of anger, he is half man and half machine. Rides the metal monster, breathing smoke and fire, closing in with vengeance soaring high. Oh, yeah. I mean, this is all talking about the system, and so clearly talking about the system. He is the painkiller. This is the painkiller. Planets devastated. Hello? Planets devastated, as we've talked about. This battle doesn't originate on Earth. This is part of the Lyran Draconian Wars that literally has destroyed planets. This is clearly, how is, I don't know if Rob Halford wrote this or KK, which one of these guys wrote this from this group. We could look it up, I'm sure. They were channeling or they were given a message to give. It's one of the two. They're either doing some channeling here, and the question then becomes: are they channeling for the light? Are they channeling for the darkness? Or, like the other song said, somewhere in between?
You know what I think? I think ultimately it is a channel for the dark side for two reasons. And one is because of the karma. They have to put the information out there. They have to get it out there. And the other purpose is to plant in the subconscious so that people are then creating the timeline that they want us to create. And the reason that we bring this stuff up is not to help the dark side make sure that they get what they want. But as soon as awareness comes into your energy field, well, now you have a choice. You don't have to go in that direction. So no, it's not that we are trying to get people to fall into line of this negative timeline. We're trying to wake people up. So if you don't know that there's a different path to take, well, you're not going to take the different path. So that's why we're so insistent upon getting this information out there and asking people to share, because we know that there's a different way. We have walked the other path ourselves, and we had to find it ourselves. And it's unless you're looking really close, or unless you're already aware there's another path, not going to find it, because everything you look at, our tablets, our TVs, our books, and all of our friends, they're only aware of the one way that the controllers give. And the controllers might give you 5 different ways to take a path, but believe me, their path goes to the same thing, goes to the same exact thing. And one thing we're not made aware of is choice. And I think that is so, the option of knowing that there is a choice is really difficult for people to conceive, because if you take away you say, okay, the left and the right, they're both on the same path. So, if we vote, we're simply voting to hold up the machine. We're only voting to keep things in place, and people just step back and they think, well, what's my option? Then I don't have one. And that's absolutely not true. You are in complete control of this journey. You can step back. You can exit out of this system right now. I mean, right now we have the options. We have some really beautiful people who are trying to pull together some form of a construct so people can rely on each other and get things done in a way, and that they don't have to be a part of the Borg. So we have people doing that, and they're very brave, very admirable, very wonderful, very noble, that people like that are stepping forward to give people that other alternative and giving them those understandings. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up, to me, when it comes to the Borg, the first indications of that Borg, to me, it's right there in the Bible. It's coming down. It's coming down out of the sky. That big square thing, there's our Borg. I mean, and it's right in the Bible that so many people love and cherish, and they guard with their entirety of their soul. And if you dare speak against it, you're going to be shunned. And I think that's where we need to get curious about each other's belief systems and ask the why, and even ask the why in our own souls. Like, why do you believe this? We should all be asking ourselves why.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's so many things. Remember, we were showing you those baby incubators. And it's interesting that came up with all the World's Fair thing and the whole Tartarian thing. And then we see Neo. Okay, so let's go backwards in my line of thinking here. Waking up and realizing he's all hooked up. He's hooked up to the Borg. He's hooked up to the Borg. He's energy. He's food. Yeah, and we all are, basically. They are sucking like ticks and leeches. Now, if your vibrations are high enough, they can't suck like ticks and leeches. In fact, the nanotech and them will have no use for you, and you'll be like them eating too hot a habanero. They won't want any part of it. They will steer clear. So we got to wake up humanity. Everything that is our real situation is before us in the movies. This is all done again to clear off karma. It's done for those that can see through. When you look to Terminator, half man and half machine. Yeah, absolutely. And again, you see the red eyes staring, always in focus. The red eyes, the red eyes. When we talk about the Lyran Draconian Wars, planets were destroyed and completely destroyed. And these wars are still ongoing. The battles are still going on right out there. You're just at a minor outpost, almost of such small significance when compared to the big wars that are going on. And this is part of why we're in such isolation as well. Tiamat was a bigger Earth, so to speak. So Earth came from the destruction of the old Tiamat. So when we see the Battle of Tiamat against Marduk, and then they make Tiamat be represented by a dragon, again, they inverse everything. They give you the truth, but then they put themselves in positions of good cop, bad cop. So they give you the truth, but then they give you the name Yahweh for God, which again, when you look back farther, there's references to El, not Yahweh. And this way, they are collecting the energy no matter who you're worshiping. Are you worshiping Yahweh? Are you worshiping Allah? You're giving them the energy. Look at the red eye, right? And this is the depiction of Starkiller Base from the newest Star Wars series. Again, destroying planets with technology. Well, what was Tiamat before it became Earth was almost totally destroyed. And it was a much bigger planet than Earth is. It was in between Mars and Jupiter. And that's the asteroid belt is part of our old planet, because then the Earth moved inwards closer to the sun because it had smaller mass. And it was revitalized by the true creator and creative forces and made habitable again after the Draconian team tried to destroy it. And, again, this is an ancient battle that's ongoing. So it's so fascinating that these groups, are channeling this information and reading the rest of this. He is the painkiller. He is the painkiller. Planets devastated, mankind on its knees. Yeah. A savior comes out from the skies in answer to their pleas. Through boiling clouds, of thunder, I think it's supposed to be of thunder, blasting bolts of steel. That sounds kind of like rods of gods, right? Evil going under deadly wheels. He is the painkiller. This is the painkiller. Faster than a laser bullet, louder than an atom bomb, chromium-plated boiling metal, brighter than 1,000 suns. Now, brighter than 1,000 suns is reference to the Mahabharata and the Brahmastra.
Mm-hmm. All of these technologies, this has been done before. And last night I was in, this is EEARTS, so I can talk about this stuff. I was in meetings all night last night talking about humanity and talking about the direction that things are going. I have yet to completely unpack it because it's one of those things where I have all the information inside. Now I got to find myself in a place where I can get the information out in kind of a subconscious/conscious manner. So there is a lot going on galactically. And the reason that these galactics have stepped in is because there were these really horrible wars, and it does create problems. It creates problems in different densities, and that just cannot happen. So there is a group of beings, many of you know them as the Galactic Federation, and they're all different kinds of beings from all different areas, and they come together in support to stop this from ever happening again.
Yeah, can you see how everything so clearly ties together? So clearly. The Brahmastra, it burns bright as 1,000 suns. In one battle, 1.3 billion people died in one single battle on the Earth. That happened, they guess, maybe around 7,000 years ago, somewhere around that. Yeah, maybe who knows exactly when the timing is, again, because in the West they want to make everything that's Vedic seem newer, when in reality it's much more ancient. So there's your reference to 1,000 suns, brighter than 1,000 suns, flying high on rapture. Aha, stronger, free, and brave, nevermore encaptured. They've been brought back from the grave, with mankind resurrected, forever to survive, returns from Armageddon to the skies. I mean, how much clearer is all that? Now, again, there is no, and yesterday was Easter, there's no other tradition that believes in some sort of bodily resurrection, like where you're taking your old body and bringing it back to life. No, because the spirit just lasts forever. Worn out garments are tossed away by the user when they're worn out. So we just simply move to a new body, a new vehicle. Bodies are just vehicles. Why would you want to be stuck in an old body forever? But this is what they want you to do. They want to keep you in this body, this limited body, because they know you're going to be getting an upgraded body. They can't have that.
You know, when it comes to resurrection, I mean, Yeshua actually has something to say about that, and something about Easter. When it talks about being resurrected, rising from the dead, this is some very, very dark sorcery. He was never a part of that in any way, shape, or form, and he does want people to know that. He was never part of that dark sorcery, because that's what they did. They would raise people from the dead. And, you know, they put it in the Bible like it's no big deal and like it's a good thing. But he said, like Mike, you say all the time, it's always so inverted. You know, take what they put out there and it's all backwards. And unfortunately, so many people are taught from such a young age that all of this is good. So once again, they are accepting this dark sorcery. And Yeshua came here to show us our evolved editions of what we can do. He was never really, he actually ascended. There was no thing on the cross where he died. He was here as an ascended master, and he really wants people to know that. The stories that they have in the Bible have to be true to a degree, because as spiritual creatures, we can feel the truth. And so many people who are in churches now are struggling because there is just something tinkering around inside of them, because they know, okay, there's something to this, but it just doesn't feel right. So yes, there are characters in the Bible that are real, but that's very necessary. But understand, in the Bible, there's so much dark sorcery that he was never a part of.
Absolutely. And thanks for sharing that again. Just to reiterate what we've gotten in the past, if you haven't heard those other videos, Yeshua, he lived much longer than they say. He lived past 33. 33 is an allusion to many different things. 33 is utilized as a kind of a pass code for the Illuminati and the other secret societies. There's 33 vertebrae in the human spine. So again, they're talking about controlling humans, Kundalini, and keeping humans in the dark without their illuminated third eye. Again, if thine eye be single, then thy body will be full of light. They want you full of darkness. They don't want you full of light. When you believe in a savior, and you know, this is the saddest thing to me, really. It's so sad that people don't understand at all what they're doing when they're always out there and they're pushing that Jesus died for your sins. You need a savior. You know, again, you're basically in agreement, if that's the case, with the whole concept of original sin, which is complete gaslighting, and it's abusive, and it's not the case. It is not the case at all. This is how they control you. And so, you know, when you do say these things, and again, if you say what the Nicene Creed says and you believe it, you're condoning blood sacrifice and cannibalism, and it's just pure evil. And here they're even talking too, again, about basically creating undead, where, you know, some of the soul, the life spark from source, will be trapped. They want to trap you. They want to trap you to be slaves forever. That's their bottom line. And so even if you escape this, escape that, but your belief system is the mainline belief system, you're setting yourself up for entrapment. Now, my mom, had grown Catholic, always went to Catholic churches pretty much, besides a period of time where I dragged her to some other ones when I was a teenager. Yet she didn't really believe. And she wasn't trapped by the system because, when she was near death and everything, and I was saying, don't worry, you're going to find yourself just out of the body, and it's going to feel amazing to not be dragged down by the body at this point in time, because she had gone through a lot of pain being 90 years old. And she would say, well, I don't know. And I would say, I do know. And you're going to see. And she did. And she was out of the body and dancing around and flying around eventually. And, now she's up in fifth density. She's decided to take the route of being more like an angel. And there's so many distortions. I was just reading in the Quran, again, about angels, and it's a distortion. It's not the way it is. And again, we know this through direct experience, and you can too, and some of you do. Again, we are not even always humans. We're not really humans. We're only humans when we're having this experience. We're consciousness itself. So we're not limited to just being humans. What they're doing is they're trapping consciousness, which is something that it's a piece of source. We're all part of one big ocean of consciousness. They're trapping limited amounts, these what we would call Atman, and they want to trap and utilize that source spark for themselves. They're truly vampiric in nature. They're parasitic. They are nothing more than ticks and leeches. So again, this just is interesting to see all these references. Now, rapture is a distortion too, because we have the ascension going on. Ascension is real, and ascension is the truth, where rapture is the distortion. And yet, at the same time, there have been mass evacuations of the planets by ship, and then we have been brought back down at times when it's been safe. Some have, and some have been brought into the inner Earth to make it through the cataclysms that happen on the surface and then reemerge later. So those two things, along with the natural ascension process, is the reality, and the Christian doctrine of the rapture is the distortion.
Always look for that. And I guess that's one way Mike and I do it, is we always look for the distortion now. Why? Because that's what we have learned. And between the two of us, Mike has far more hours of meditation and mantras than I do, but between the two of us, we have quite a few years of meditation and mantras and bringing ourselves into that level of consciousness where we can read these things and we can understand them and we can pull them out and we can see the truth and we can inspect it. And we want to share with you guys. Why? Because it's a form of us trying to illuminate you in a way so that at least you have options. But that's one way. Always look for the distortion when you're dealing with a mainstream. Always know that there's going to be some kind of inversion.
So, this is from Wikipedia talking about the song Electric Eye and saying that it used Orwell's 1984 as an inspiration, which was interesting. Again, 1984 was actually released in 1949. And it talks about that dystopian society, how they, again, are literally rewriting history every single day through the ministry of truth. Gosh, they're following the yes. We're living in a movie. We're living in a movie, or we're living in a 1980s metal video. The New Jerusalem, perfect cube, right? And again, there'll be no more moon, no more sun, because again, it's all artificially lighted for those that are taken up into the New Jerusalem, the new collective, or again, it's so big, it would cover almost the entirety of the Middle East. It would literally, I've seen references to how big it is. If it was to land, in Israel, it would end up like touching the Greek islands. This is a mothership. Plain and simple, pretty obvious. This is a mothership, and there's references to this in New Jerusalem, the city of New Jerusalem, descending from the sky. Ah, yes. Yeah, and the Borg have a version of that exactly again. Only it's a dark city. Yeah, absolutely. And when we look to Mecca, we see the Kaaba. And that's like another rendition of this. Sure, it's taken from a historical perspective again, and this is all part of the same thing as you look at the architecture and history of the Kaaba. Sorry, it's Islam's holiest site. Yeah, absolutely. As you can see, it's a perfect cube back there again. There you go. What does Islam say that mankind was created for? He says, I did not create the jinn and humans except to worship me. This is 5156 surah. And over here again, I have not created men except that they should serve me. The Quran 5156, except that they should serve me. Wow, that sounds awful familiar. That's exactly what the Anunnaki say about humanity. They didn't want to do the physical labor. Yeah, they adjusted what was here, changed the DNA, gave it just enough intelligence. And again, these are the bodies. These are not our souls. Before the Anunnaki were, I am, we are, again. And they're stuck, and we're not. They've given in to the Borg, to the collective. We haven't. So we are actually able to move into much higher perspective and places than them. They think their technology is superior. In fact, it has totally stifled any sort of evolution with them. Maybe in time, some will free themselves. Again, go to the Enuma Elish, and it'll tell you. And, this is, again, predating anything biblical by thousands of years. Humanity was created to be a slave race. And you look to Revelations 21, I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away. And there was no longer any sea. I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. Look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God. He will wipe away every tear. No more death or mourning. No, because, you're going to be cyborg. You're going to be part of the, Borg collective. And so, they are offering, it's just like a vampire, immortality can be yours if you just get bit. Become one of us. But they don't tell you that then you're just nothing but a heap of dust, and your source spark is depleted, that they're actually literally trying to drain the true creator that's inside of you out of you and absorb it into their collective.
What I keep seeing when I watch this is, the farmer who has a lot of cattle or who has a lot of sheep, and let's say, that farmer is really wanting to fatten up these cattle and sheep, so he feeds them really, really delicious food, and he treats them nice, and he pats them on the back, and he pets them, when all along he knows the plan that he has inside of him. But all these cattle are just thinking, hey, this is a great guy. Do you see what's on the menu? Come on over here, Johnny. This is some really good food. Unfortunately, there's an agenda there. And I find that's where we're at right about now. And so many people think that the controllers are great and wonderful for supplying everything that they do. But they have a purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how many references do you have to Jesus being the shepherd? Jesus is the shepherd, the good shepherd. Again, this is a distortion. Jesus, our true shepherd. What do shepherds do? Led as a lamb to the slaughter. Yeah, we are, going to the slaughterhouse. This is what they do. Now, the real Yeshua has nothing to do with that, and wouldn't have anything to do with that. This is all the controller's dogma, the controller's ideology, to keep the herd in place when it's time, again. how to hurt sheep. First, separate them left and right. Get them to fear each other. At this point, they're distracted, and you can slaughter all the sheep you want. And thus, this is what we have.
Not a pretty picture, and again, this is not a popular subject. Mike and I don't do this for the glory. That's for darn sure. We do it because we've both been affected by the system in very deep and personal and profound ways, and we don't want to see other people be hurt like we have been.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So as always, guys, thanks for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. If you need to make an appointment, it's evolutionaryenergyarts at Gmail at this moment. Going to be changing updating, giving more alternatives for getting in contact with us mail-wise as well. As always, there is a creator. That creator absolutely loves you. There is a Yeshua. He has nothing to do with this dogma that's on this dark planet. And, again, we would have to ask ourselves, if this world is controlled by Satan, don't you think the dogma's Satan's? I mean, that's pretty damn obvious. I mean, if you're still believing in what the DRs are telling you, what the mainstream media is telling you, and then maybe I can understand why people would believe in the mainstream dogma. But if you're awoken to the fact that you can't trust the media, you can't trust the politicians, you can't trust the MED period system, why are you still trusting the dogma? It's just mind-boggling.
Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.